Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely monumental topic, the origins and the historical expansion of Islam. We're going to explore the roots of a belief system that has quite literally shaped our world as we know it. So, let's jump right in. First off, let's just establish the sheer scale of what we're talking about here. 1.8 billion people. That is roughly 1 in every 4 people on Earth following this 1,400-year-old faith. It's actually the majority religion in 49 different countries, stretching all the way from Indonesia to Morocco. So we're talking about a truly global way of life. To help us navigate this massive history, here's our roadmap. We'll start with the origins of Islam, move into the core beliefs and texts, look at the 5 pillars, explore the Islamic way of life and law, and finally, wrap up with its expansion into the subcontinent. Section 1. The origins of Islam. We're going to begin our chronological deep dive right in 7th century Arabia, centering on the life of a merchant named Muhammad. Now, what's really fascinating here is the core philosophy itself. Unlike other major religions named after their founders, the word Islam is actually named after an action. Derived from the Arabic root Salm, it literally means finding peace through absolute submission to the will of a single God. So it naturally follows that a Muslim is simply a person who submits. Looking at the key milestones, Muhammad was born an orphan in 570 CE in Mecca. Fast forward to 610 CE, and he's a 40-year-old man meditating in the Hira cave, where he reports receiving his very first divine revelation from the angel Gabriel. Facing some pretty intense persecution from local idol worshippers, he and his early followers fled to Medina in 622 CE. This migration was so foundational, it actually marks year 1 of the Islamic calendar. By the time of his death in 632 CE, most of Arabia had united under this brand new faith. Right after his death, a massive succession crisis kicked off. The community was split over who should lead next. Should they elect Muhammad's father-in-law, Abu Bakr, or his son-in-law, Ali? This early political divide ended up evolving into a lasting theological split. And today, we see this reflected globally, with roughly 80 to 90% of Muslims identifying as Sunni, who supported Abu Bakr, and about 13% as Shia, who supported Ali. Moving on to Section 2, core beliefs and texts. Let's see exactly how this historical origin story evolved into a really comprehensive theological system. So the absolute linchpin of it all is Tawheed. This is the central pillar of Islamic monotheism. It dictates that Allah, which, by the way, is simply the Arabic word for God, is the uncreated, genderless creator of the entire universe. He has no partners, no family, and the faith completely rejects any form of idolatry. Basically, God is entirely, fundamentally unique. Beyond just believing in that one God, a Muslim's internal faith requires embracing 6 specific articles. And what's really interesting here is how it connects to other major faiths. Muslims believe in the original Torah and Gospel, and they revere a long lineage of roughly 124,000 prophets. This includes familiar figures like Adam, Moses, and Jesus. So in this framework, Muhammad isn't introducing a brand new religion from scratch. He's viewed as the absolute final prophet, sent to restore the original, uncorrupted message. When it comes to interpreting the faith, followers rely on 2 highly distinct sources. First, you have the Quran, which is considered the literal, unchanged word of God, completely independent of human authorship, and it's organized into 114 chapters known as surahs. Then, alongside it, you have the Hadith. These are the recorded sayings and actions of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, because they were passed down orally before ever being written, scholars rigorously rank the Hadith from strong to weak, entirely based on the historical reliability of the people who transmitted them. Section 3. The 5 pillars. With the internal faith established, we're now going to look at the physical, day-to-day actions required by the religion. These 5 steps form the absolute blueprint for a Muslim's daily life. It kicks off with the Shahada, which is the simple declaration of faith. Then comes Salat, a rigorous physical and spiritual routine of praying 5 times a day facing Mecca. Then we have Psalm, the highly introspective month of fasting during Ramadan. And finally, the Hajj, the requirement to make a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in a lifetime if you're physically and financially able to. During Hajj, millions stand shoulder to shoulder in identical white garments, signifying absolute human equality. But what really stands out from an economic perspective is this precise mandate of 2.5%. This is the zakat. It mandates that wealthy Muslims must donate exactly 2.5% of their accumulated wealth annually. And to be clear, that's wealth, not just income. This isn't viewed as some optional, feel-good charity. It is considered a fundamental right of the poor. Today, this system literally generates hundreds of billions of dollars a year for global poverty relief. All right, Section 4, Way of Life and Law. Moving beyond those personal rituals, let's explore how these beliefs actually govern broader society, ethics, and law. You hear this term constantly in modern headlines, and honestly, it's often surrounded by a lot of confusion. Sharia literally translates to the path to a water hole, which, if you think about it, was a literal lifeline for people living in the desert. Fundamentally, it's an aspirational moral code designed to protect life, intellect, and property. It mostly dictates personal behavior, like how to treat your neighbors or how to handle business contracts. The human effort to interpret this divine ideal into actual, practical legal rulings is a constantly evolving scholarly process called daily choices are governed by a really strict dichotomy of permissible and forbidden actions. Halal means permissible, which includes things like fair trade and, interestingly, very strict rules against animal cruelty. It ensures any animal slaughtered for meat dies painlessly and without fear. On the flip side, haram means forbidden, which covers consuming pork or alcohol. Crucially, it also strictly forbids something called riba, which is predatory lending and interest. This is specifically designed to prevent the wealthy from exploiting the poor. This striking quote comes directly from Muhammad's final sermon. It highlights how the theology actively dismantled the deep-seated tribal racism of 7th century Arabia, enforcing absolute human equality under God. The message was loud and clear. Your worth is determined solely by your character and your piety, absolutely not by your bloodline or race. Furthermore, historical texts note that 1400 years ago, this system introduced some pretty revolutionary civil rights for women, rights that frankly didn't even appear in many Western countries until the 19th or 20th centuries. This included the legal right to inherit and own property, mandatory consent in marriage alongside a financial gift belonging solely to the bride called mahar, the legal right to initiate divorce, and the absolute duty to pursue education. Now, while modern cultural practices and garments like the burqa or hijab vary widely today and spark a lot of debate, the original foundational texts actually mandate modesty for both men and women equally. Section 5, Expansion into the Subcontinent. For our final section, we're going to zoom out to the macro-historical level. We'll objectively examine how this system physically spread through military and political expansion, specifically zooming in on the Indian subcontinent. We can clearly track the 712 CE Umayyad campaign, led by a 17-year-old general named Muhammad bin Qasim, through these sequential steps. The historical trigger, or casus belli, was actually a maritime dispute over pirates looting Arab ships off the coast of Sind, which was ruled by King Dahar at the time. When Dahar basically said he had absolutely no control over these pirates, the invasion was launched. This led to the systemic capture of key regional strongholds, eventually culminating in the incredibly wealthy city of Multan, often called the City of Gold. Historical accounts explain that this Arab military victory was secured not just by sheer force, but through some highly specific battlefield tactics. Qasim strategically recruited Dahir's local political rivals to bolster his own forces. During the decisive battle, Arab forces used flaming arrows to spark a fire on the wooden carriage of King Dahir's war elephant, causing the animal to panic and ultimately leading to the king's death. Later, during the siege of Multan, Qasim utilized local intelligence from inside the city to completely cut off their vital water supply, which essentially forced them to surrender. Much of what historians understand today about this violent yet incredibly pivotal collision of cultures comes directly from the Chachnama. This Persian text chronicles the military strategies, the political betrayals, and ultimately how the Islamic Empire firmly planted its roots in India, forever altering the region's cultural and religious landscape. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. We've traced the path from a lone merchant meditating in a cave to a complex theological system, and finally to massive historical empires. So how does understanding this deeply structured 1400-year history change the way you view Islam's immense global impact today? I encourage you to look beyond the daily headlines and continue exploring the deep roots of a quarter of our world's population. Thanks so much for joining me. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.